Welcome to the Formative Assessment for California Teachers, also known as FACT. Hi, this is Teresa Stringer with the Irvine Unified School District Beginning Teacher Support and Assessment Program. In this video, we are going to take a look at Module C, Inquiry into Teaching and Learning. This is an integral part of the Irvine Formative Assessment System. The purpose of Module C in the Formative Assessment System is to improve teaching, as measured by the California Standards for the Teaching Profession, CSTPs, in relation to the state-adopted academic content standards and performance levels for students. I would like to take a moment and explain the overall process in Module C for both Year 1 and Year 2. There are 6 overall steps. Based on what you did prior to the first review, the new teacher will complete the individual induction plan, which includes student goals and an action plan. Then the teachers will have students take an entry-level assessment, plan a unit of study, implement ongoing assessments, and finally facilitate the summative assessment. The summative assessment will measure the same content and/or skill as the entry-level assessment. At some point during this process, the support provider will complete a formal observation of the new teacher using the individual induction plan as the primary focus. The results of this process are used by participating teachers and support providers to explore the impact of instruction on student achievement while guiding the participating teacher's future professional development. Here's an overview of formative assessment for California teachers and the 5 modules. At the time you begin Module C, you should have already completed Module A, Module B Part 1 and 2, and the first half of Module E, the self-assessment, and have completed your first review. You are now here in the inquiry, Module C. The individual induction plan is the planning step in the plan, teach, reflect, and apply process of the formative assessment system. In this first section of the individual induction plan, you will determine what you need to know and be able to do. This is where you set goals for student learning, which will be the focus for the formative assessment process. At the top of the individual induction plan, let's look at the information requested. Please write the name of both the participating teacher and support provider. The IIP number identifies which individual induction plan this is in your BITSA program. For Year 1 participating teachers, it is going to be number 1. For most Year 2 participating teachers, it is going to be number 2. For any teachers who completed Year 1 of BITSA somewhere else, it may be number 2 or 3. Check with the BITSA leadership team if you have any questions. Mark the date you begin to complete the IIP document. The teaching assignment refers to what content and/or grade level you are teaching currently. If you teach multiple content areas, you are welcome to list them or identify the area you will focus on for this inquiry. With regard to school, you may identify your one school site, and if you work at multiple sites, you may list all of your assigned sites or just state multiple. We are now going to go through each cell of the individual induction plan. Cell number 1. Determine the area for focus. With your support provider, review the evidence collected prior to the inquiry of Modules A, B, Part 1, and Part 2, and the first half of Module E. Consider where you marked yourself on the continuum of teaching practice on Module E and evidence identified in Module E to assist in determining an area of focus. For example, assessment, classroom management, equity and diversity, etc. When considering the area of focus, ask yourself, what area do you want to improve that will ultimately improve student learning? Possible areas of improvement may include teacher behavior, response time, equity, proximity, less talking, or student behavior, which may include more peer collaboration, improved responsibility, increased independence, improved student engagement and retention, and increased student movement during the lesson. Another area, improved homework classroom completion, resulting in improved overall student scores. Another possible area, more effective use of resources, including incorporating technology by students and/or teacher, use of variety of effective teaching strategies, implementing common core strategies, etc. Goals can also be behavioral. Entry-level and summative assessments can consist of charting behaviors before, during, and after the new strategy implementation. Take into consideration your school site in either the grade level or department goals and priorities. Try to include only one variable in your goal and keep it simple. Consider a complicated goal would be students will improve performance on standardized tests, daily work, homework, and extra assignments. But a grade goal, a simple goal, could be students will improve performance on standardized tests. The Irvine Unified School District BITSA program is to be completed alongside your support provider to support what you do every day in the classroom for student. We know you already have goals and expectations, so do not create separate goals for BITSA. Consider this an opportunity to continue to work toward your personal and professional goals for your classroom here in IUSD. Cell number 2. Develop a focus question for this inquiry. When crafting the focus question, consider what can I, as their teacher, do to help them achieve their goal. Focus questions are formulated based on identified areas for growth. Participating teachers may want to consider using the reflective questions in the CSTP, located after each element, to identify an open-ended focus question that leads to an in-depth study of teaching practice. Examples, focus question template, and additional resources can be found on the IUSD BITSA website, thanks to Peggy Granberry. Cell number 3. Which CSTP elements will be addressed? After writing a focus question, identify any CSTP elements that are relevant to the focus question. Cell number 4. What are the anticipated measurable outcomes for student learning? So when considering the measurable outcomes, ask yourself, what is it I want the kids to know and be able to do? How can the outcomes be observable and measured? Considering the focus question to be researched and potential changes to the classroom practice, what are the anticipated measurable goals? Cell number 5. Identify the elements of the Common Core to be addressed and explain how it will be implemented in the unit of study. This is an opportunity to implement something new and exciting in your classroom. Cell number 6. Identify the elements of the Continuous Improvement Effort, CIEs, to be addressed and explain how it will be implemented in the unit of study. This continuous improvement effort is unique to Irvine Unified. Rather than creating new work for yourself, use your site, department, and/or grade level goals, which were written with the continuous improvement efforts in mind. Here are some of the challenges and suggestions that we have in completing the first 6 cells of the IIP. Some people prefer to keep the end in mind, so instead of starting with cell number 1, they work backwards, and they start with cell number 4. What are the anticipated measurable outcomes for student learning? From there, they create and develop a focus question, and at that point, then they can easily identify, based on the findings from self-assessment, what the area of focus will be, and then the CSTPs. Use the professional goals that you set at the beginning of the school year. Do not reinvent your goals, unless you want to try something brand new. You may want to consider goals from your last evaluation. Your site administrator may have suggested or recommended that you work on a certain area. Maybe it's a goal for everyone in your department or your grade level, and so you may want to consider using that as part of your focus for the inquiry. Try to use the additional resources available online at the IUSD BITSA website. It may make this whole process much easier. One of the issues that come up with regards to the focus question is that sometimes teachers will make it too broad. Participating teachers sometimes struggle to articulate what they really mean. So often we start with a grand goal that isn't really what we want to work on. So try to really whittle it down to the main idea of what you want to work on. Make sure you know how you're going to measure student growth as you create these goals. And so often we find that year 1 teachers prefer to work on classroom management, while year 2 teachers prefer to work on pedagogy and additional new teaching strategies.
This is a page break.
Now we're going to take a couple minutes to describe step 2, which is developing the action plan, which is cells 7 through 10. As a new teacher, in this section, it's about examining their research related to their focus question and applying new learning to their instructional settings. During step 2, participating teachers work with support providers to begin developing their action plan. This plan will document new learning in classroom application. While completing the individual induction plan, C1, cells 7 through 10, participating teachers document actions taken throughout the inquiry process. Cell number 7 is the date of research. Record the dates for each action taken to support the focus question. This can also be an approximate time of when that action or class or research will be done. Cell number 8 is research, where it asks you to describe resources used. This is where you will describe resources you will use to achieve your goals, such as talking with colleagues, reading research related to the focus question, attending workshops or courses, analyzing student work, exploring internet resources, PLC time. This could also include observation by a support provider. Another resource is to observe professional colleagues. This one is important to Irvine, and therefore we continue to include it in our program. There are 3 main ways you can do this. One is to schedule a substitute to allow you to spend the day observing colleagues. Check with your support providers for suggestions on or off your campus. The observation, though, must be done within the district. You are not to be out of the district during the time of the observations. Another method of observing colleagues is to schedule a day for your support provider to observe you, and then utilize that same substitute in your classroom later in the day to allow you to observe colleagues. And the third option is to observe your peers during your prep period for secondary teachers or during music or art for elementary teachers. And we will reimburse you for your time. Just complete a substitute card and turn it into your administrative assistant, who will then turn it into the BITSA office for reimbursement. And cell number 9, about application. It states the implementation of new knowledge. The question is, how will new knowledge be implemented with students? And 10, measurable results. During implementation, what were student teachers able to achieve? There are 2 ways to complete this cell. 1, the cell should be started before the unit of study, but will not be completed until after the summative assessment. At that time, the participating teacher will update the entries to reflect the results of the inquiry. And the second way of completing the cell is after implementation in the instructional setting. Describe evidence of the measurable impact on student achievement and your impact on teaching. The individual induction plan, C1, cells 7 through 10 are updated throughout the inquiry process, while the individual induction plan, cell 11, serves as a culminating reflection. At this point in Module C, you will begin to complete the other Module C documents. But to complete the IIP instruction, I'm going to briefly describe cell 11. For year 2s, you'll notice that we eliminated some redundant questions from the past, and we just have cell 11. Describe how you will apply new learning to future practice. In this cell, the new teacher will describe what they're going to do differently or the same for future practice.
This is a page break.
Okay, the purpose of this video is to discuss the instruction on how to complete the individual induction plan, as well as an overview of Module C. The second video will be a more in-depth look at how to complete the rest of the documents C2 through C8 of Module C. So to continue with the overview, let's look at the 6 steps of Module C. Step 1 is to determine the focus of the inquiry, and Step 2 is the developing the action plan. We've already discussed that. Step 3 is the preparation for instruction. Step 4 is the observation and collection of evidence. Step 5 is the summative assessment and analysis. And Step 6 is the reflection and application of new learning. It's in Step 6 where the participating teacher will return to the IIP, the individual induction plan, to complete cells 10 and 11.
Thank you.
That was a quick overview of the individual induction plan in Module C. Any additional questions, please contact your lead support provider through email or at the next BITSA meeting. I hope you found this video useful. Until the next module, thank you.